All right, Paul. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
All right, we are ready when you are.
Hey. Hi. As you guys know, I'm Paul vanWingerden, and I am a creative technologies and creative writing double major, or as Zane likes to call it, a creative text major. Before coming into the creative tech program, I was solely a creative writing major with no other minors, and I wasn't really having the best time in college. I wasn't really enjoying myself, wasn't finding the best of friends, because in creative writing, people were only your friends in class. You would get to class, you guys would talk, but then once you left class, you never interacted with each other. And I was missing that home feeling that everyone talked about at Barry. Then Rachel Bibby introduced me to creative tech by taking me to the lab when I mentioned to her that I wanted to 3D print a whale, which is one of my favorite animals. And when she took me there, she was very welcoming, and she actually walked me through every step of the process and how you would do this, and showed me around the lab and really opened my eyes to this new program. And this was in the fall of sophomore year. When class enrollment came around, this experience was still sticking with me. So I decided to enroll in the 101 course to try out the program and see how it was, because Rachel really made it seem fun and I wanted to try it. And during that time, I've made fantastic friends. Most of the pictures are Mariah because she rocks, but there are so many more I don't have pictured, and it's been a blast. And during this time, I've actually found that I love to develop technologies around pop culture and societal trends. Pop culture has had a special place in my life, especially specific ones like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Lord of the Rings has been a great influence in my writing. It's actually been very influential in a series of novels I'm working on and hope to publish later in life. And Star Wars and TV shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Parks and Rec have been very influential in just my life and what I do and what I consume and look at. And societal trends that I like to pay attention to specifically are global warming and climate change and how these are affecting the way we live and the environments we interact with. Now, the first project that I actually ever ended up doing that really opened my eyes up to pop culture was my 101 project, my final project. The picture on the right is Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec, and he's a goofball in the show, and he's one of a group of people who work for the government and are just going about their daily lives. But Tom Haverford's the character who wants to make millions and is constantly having idea after idea, and most of them fail and honestly suck. But DJ Roomba was one of my favorites because I thought it was hilarious, and I actually had a Roomba at home. So I decided to take this idea and bring it to life for my own personal use. So I had my mom mail me the Roomba, and I set to work making the project. I made the speaker by hand and everything with it. I wanted the speaker to be light and portable because I wanted to be able to take it off, carry it around the room, and I didn't want the room to have to carry too much weight. So I made it out of foam core. And then after I did that, I realized it really didn't have that DJ Roomba feeling to it. Yes, it was a Roomba with the speaker, but it needed more pop. So I decided to put NeoPixels on the Roomba and code them so that they would light up and react to the music. So that way, when the Roomba was running and playing music, it's like you had your own private disco driving around your room, and it was just a party, and it was so much fun to make. This was really my first time stepping out of my comfort zone in the creative tech program because my intermediate project was a woodworking project, and that's all I've ever really done. I grew up doing woodworking with my dad, so taking this step opened my eyes to what creative tech actually can be. A little later on in the program, I decided to make the energy sword from Halo, which is a futuristic first-person shooter. And this game series is actually very important to me because it's one I've grown up playing with multiple friends. And one friend in particular always jumps out in my mind when I think of Halo. He's a friend I've had since middle school. And ever since we've split up and gone to college, I don't see him often because he goes to college in Miami and is busy studying neuroscience to be a neurosurgeon. So as you can imagine, it's very time consuming. And he also has family in Asia. So over breaks, he'll go and visit them. So I hardly ever get to see him. But Halo is one of the few things we've always bonded over and been able to do. Every summer since high school, we've gone through the games together and played them at high difficulty. It's just been this bond we have together, and I wanted to bring this bond to life somehow. So for a hackathon, I decided to make the energy sword from Halo, which is one of the most, if not the most iconic symbols from the game. To do this, I decided to take a design from online and actually shape it a little bit in Inkscape to what I wanted it to look like. And after doing that, I cut acrylic on the laser cutter because acrylic's a nice, hard, easy to work with plastic that's see-through. So it's the perfect material to make an energy sword out of. And after I did this, I actually took a frosted spray paint and coated all of the acrylic with it so that it would give the blade a cloudy effect so that it doesn't just look see-through and you're just seeing plastic and lights. But after this, I actually needed the blade to light up. So using my experience with DJ Roomba, I again used NeoPixels inside the blade to have it light up. My intention for this blade was to actually have an entire working blade where when you press the button, the blade lit up and then turned off when you release the button. But I kind of did, it was my first time working with laser cutting acrylic, so I ran out of time having to wait for all that to cut and micromanage it, so it didn't work out. But it still was a fantastic project. I even 3D printed a beautiful handle I found on Thingiverse, and it was a great project for me. It was actually a great project because not only was it me working in an area that I loved and making something that had a connection to myself, but I also ended up winning the hackathon with this project. So being awarded for something that was really mattered to me made a big difference in my outlook on the overall program. This showed itself again in my Dark Lounge of the Sith, which was a stool that I made for the Intermediate Design Studio. The Intermediate Design Studio, if you don't know, is the class where we are partnered with a community partner and we work throughout the entire semester on a project for them. But we also have 3 different design challenge projects that we do on our own. And one of them was to make a camp stool. And the camp stool needed to fit in a 1 foot by 1 foot square and had to have some kind of design on it. Being inspired by Star Wars, which is very near and dear to my heart because I've grown up consuming it with my family. I've watched the movies with my family. I've played multiple games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 and The Force Unleashed with my brother and watched all the shows. It was really near and dear to my heart. So I wanted to bring this to life in a project. So even though I knew that a very complex design would take a lot longer to actually bring to life, I decided to do the Imperial logo because it's a very cool looking logo and the Empire did nothing wrong, so there's no point in not using them as your model. So this was actually a challenging project for me because I'd never really touched Fusion 360, which was my first hurdle. I spent 6 or 7 hours really hammering down how I wanted this design to look and even had some help from some friends, including Corey. And it was a very nice experience for me because it helped me hone a new skill. After that, I spent 5 or 6 hours in the wood shop in a late night cutting all my pieces because I knew it would take a long time and I was welcome to the risk because I knew in my mind how the end goal would look. After this, we had to paint the chair and I knew I could do one paint color and it would look all right, but it wouldn't actually have the pop and the theme that I was looking for. So I had to think, what are the colors that would fit best for the Empire? And when you think about the Empire, you probably think of Darth Vader, who wears all black, and they have a lot of black in their colors, black and white, but black is really the color that fits. So I made that the outside. And then for the inside, I wanted it to be a different color so that it has this tiered effect and it really lets the logo pop. And what better color than red, which is the color of the Sith and those who ruled the Empire. So it was just a great culmination of a project, and it's one of my favorite things that I've actually made in the program. Moving on from this was actually my capstone project. I wanted to focus more on some societal project or like a project that is both fits me in a passion and something that I can address a worldwide issue. So I went with marine biology and plastic pollution in the ocean. Marine biology is very near and dear to my heart, and it's actually what I almost majored in college, and I wouldn't have been at Barry if I decided to follow that track. But instead, I actually went with creative writing. But growing up, my family quickly became a cruise-loving family, and I never really enjoyed them because you're just cooped up on a boat until I found that you could go snorkeling on all these different islands and go and see these different natural habitats and coral reefs and just all these beautiful fish in the water. So I started doing that and it only increased my love for marine biology and marine life itself. But one thing I witnessed in multiple places was a lot of human interference in these environments. I saw coral reefs destroyed by human touching, and I saw a lot of pollution in the ocean, whether it was plastic bags, chip bags, or larger pieces of debris. And that began to highlight a problem I had that I could look toward solving. So after research in Capstone, I wanted to specifically address plastic pollution in the ocean, and even more narrow, microplastic pollution. But the challenge with that is even existing systems today in the ocean that are designed to help clean it up, like the system 001/B, don't capture microplastics. The system 001B is this large, like almost autonomous floating net that sits in the Pacific Ocean and uses ocean currents to capture larger debris, but it isn't designed to capture microplastics. It is very ineffective at capturing them. And it was nearly impossible to think of some kind of scaled project that would work well in the ocean to capture microplastics. So doing further research, I decided to try and tackle the problem at its source. And one of the main sources of microplastic pollution is the synthetic material in the clothing we wear. And a lot of that is put into the environment when we wash our clothes. When we wash our clothes, small fibers of microplastic are broken off of the clothing we wear and are washed down in the drain, and nothing is there to actually capture them. So they're just washed away and there's nothing we do about them. So I wanted to address this problem. And one of the reasons I chose an acrylic casing for this project is I wanted the user to be able to see inside this project and understand how the system is working. Because if they can see the water flowing through it and watch the two meshes capturing the microplastic, they can get that sense of satisfaction and understanding that they bought something that's actually working and they're actually making a difference, instead of just having this, like, let's say it was a black plastic case, they would have this thing where it's like, oh, is it working? I don't know, and I don't really care. It gets them involved and gives them a better understanding of the problem and how they're addressing it. So to actually make my two filters, I decided to use two different mesh sizes. And one of the meshes, the one on the left that you see, is a 120 micron mesh. And I put this mesh in there without the intent to capture microplastic, but to instead act as a buffer for larger debris that goes to the washing machine. Because when we wash our clothes, there can be dirt or like trash in our pockets. And that'll get sucked in the water when we wash it, and it'll go through the filter. But if I only have small filters designed for capturing microplastic, they're going to get easily clogged by these large pieces, and eventually it'll just fill up and completely nullify what I'm trying to do. So I put that as the first barrier to capture all these large pieces. So my second mesh, which is a 50 micron mesh, would be able to only focus on capturing microplastic. And the pictures you see are from one test wash in an actual washing machine. And if you hold the meshes up to light, you can actually see the stuff it was capturing. And the middle picture is the smaller mesh, and you see a lot of debris on it, but you can't actually gauge whether it's microplastic or dirt. So one way you can actually test this is holding a black light up to the mesh. And the picture on the right shows this. And everything that you see that's white or kind of glowing is microplastic that was captured in just one wash, which was actually a smaller wash because I didn't want to overwhelm the filter. This was a very gratifying experience for me doing, because I realized that this idea that I had and this concept was effective in a way, even though it had some issues and the filter clogged up very quickly and I pretty much had to resort to my overflow tube. I realized, one, I actually designed something that could capture microplastics effectively, but two, this is a large scale problem that needs attention, because after only a few minutes of water funneling through, the entire thing clogged because of how much I was capturing. So after all of this work that I've done, I want to enlist in the Marines after college and work towards getting accepted into the Marine Raiders. The Marine Raiders are one of the Marine Special Forces units, and they work, among other things, towards direct action, counterterrorism, and counterinsurgency. So what they do, these groups, is they work towards fighting these violent terrorist groups that we see in the world, such as ISIS or Boko Haram, that cause problems for people who can't really defend themselves or haven't done anything to deserve this unwarranted attacks. It's something that I've grown up seeing, and it's something I would love to try and help tackle. And I feel like the best way for me to do this is to actually fight against it. After this stint, I would like to look towards the job market and make paraphernalia for pop culture. And maybe one of the best fits I could find is at Vader's Vault, which is a company that makes high-end, high-quality custom lightsabers for customers. And this would be a perfect job for me because, one, I love Star Wars and I'm a huge fan, so I know exactly what kind of tools other people would like, and it would allow me to use the skills that I've been cultivating at Barry to help create something that I'm passionate about. And while all of this is happening, I would also love to continually work towards getting my series of novels both written and published, because it's something that I've been working on for years and it's a goal of mine to have done. I don't have it. Thank you.